Well, I tell you what, I feel really enthusiastic. I feel honoured. I feel inspired to be able to talk to you about something that's been happening to me over the last, oh goodness, it's got to be at least 35 to 40 years that I have suffered with a phobia around needles and a phobia around blood. I could just not at all talk about it. I would literally freak, I would go pale, and often, with no word of a lie, I would just pass out. I always remember at school, and we had the TB jab, I think it was called, and I remember just flaking out completely. And so I feel great to be able to talk about my experience. Now, some of you actually might know me from TV because I presented a show called Fat Families, and or you might read one of my books, little advert there. And what people often think is, you know, that I'm this really confident guy and I'm all sorted and all that sort of thing. Well, generally, I am. I feel good about myself. But there was this one thing that I just could not get on top of. So if ever, you know, someone said to me, you've got to have a blood test, I tell you what, I would freak. I would run a mile from it. I would put it off. I just wouldn't do it. So I decided to call in a colleague, someone that I'd heard about called Dan Regan, this guy, who obviously the website you're visiting is his website. And I said to him, look, I've got this real issue and I just can't sort it out. I need you to be able to get me over the phobia of blood and make me feel more confident, more in control, especially around needles and blood tests, because my anxiety is through the roof. So what happened was really quite unusual. He did this hypnotherapy session for me, and then he did a follow-up just to, I suppose, seal it all in my head. But the hypnotherapy session, yeah, we started off with some relaxation and that was all very nice. But then he turned it into this big comedy show. And all of a sudden, it was as though having a blood test or understanding blood, it was like a carry-on film, to be honest. So what happened is, I went through the process, then I woke up, and I've got to be honest with you, I'm always a bit cynical, you know, has this worked, has it not? But straight after the session, he made me talk about blood and talk about blood tests and talk about needles. And you know, I just couldn't stop laughing. I had not got, honestly, a care in the world. A nurse could have come through and said, we need to do a blood test. And I've said, there's my arm. Because I was just laughing about it. So I realised what he'd done with my anxiety. He turned it into something completely different. So I was smiling. It just didn't bother me to the extent that it did. So now, thankfully, and thank you, Dan, I'm in a place where if I need a blood test, if someone's talking about blood, if I see something on the telly that's a little bit gory, I just smile because I'm in control of it. And actually, if it's to do with me, I just laugh. So, you know, if you're suffering from anything that's related to anxiety, you know, not just blood tests, needles, it can be absolutely anything, panic attacks or whatever, do you know what? I've got to be fair to this guy and say to you, give him a chance. Because I tell you what, he's pretty good.